The intricate web of drug cartels in Mexico has long been a fascination and concern, with far-reaching impacts on both sides of the border. However, there are persistent allegations that the operations of these cartels go beyond the boundaries of their own criminal enterprises. Whispers of a deeper connection involving the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, have sparked widespread speculation and controversy. Drawing on various sources and expert insights, we will navigate through the complex landscape where geopolitics, intelligence operations, and the illicit drug trade intersect. Prepare as we embark on a journey that challenges the conventional understanding of the drug cartels, exposing a world where blurred lines between power, intelligence, and organized crime have far-reaching implications. Mexico's history with drug cartels is a complex and tumultuous story that spans several decades. To better understand the current state of affairs, it's important to examine the roots of the drug trade and the emergence of powerful cartels that have profoundly influenced Mexican society. The origins of Mexico's drug cartels can be traced back to the early 20th century, when smuggling activities along the U.S.-Mexico border began to gain momentum. Initially, the focus was on the trafficking of alcohol during the Prohibition era in the United States. The illegal trade thrived, with Mexican smugglers supplying liquor to thirsty Americans. This period laid the groundwork for criminal networks to establish their operations and build connections that would later be utilized for drug trafficking. However, it was during the 1980s that the Mexican drug cartels truly rose to prominence. The increasing demand for illicit drugs, particularly cocaine in the United States, presented an opportunity for organized crime groups to expand their operations. The breakup of the Colombian Medellin and Cali cartels further fueled this growth, as Mexican cartels stepped in to fill the void left by their South American counterparts. One of the earliest and most notorious Mexican drug cartels was the Guadalajara cartel, led by Miguel Ángel Felix Gallardo, known as the Godfather. The Guadalajara cartel operated with relative impunity, enjoying political connections and utilizing a vast network for drug trafficking. However, the cartel's dominance was challenged in 1985 when Mexican authorities captured Gallardo, leading to the fragmentation of the organization into smaller, more decentralized cartels. This fragmentation marked the beginning of a new era in Mexico's drug trade, characterized by intense competition and violence among rival cartels. The Tijuana cartel, led by the Arellano Felix brothers, emerged as a major player, controlling the lucrative drug routes along the U.S.-Mexico border. In the 1990s, the Juarez cartel, led by Amado Carilla Fuentes, also gained prominence, focusing on trafficking cocaine and methamphetamine. However, the most powerful and influential cartel to emerge during this period was the Sinaloa cartel, led by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. El Chapo, considered one of the most notorious drug lords in history, rose to power within the Sinaloa cartel and expanded its reach across Mexico and beyond. Under his leadership, the cartel solidified its control over drug trafficking routes, smuggling vast amounts of drugs into the United States. The early 2000s witnessed a significant escalation in violence as cartels fought for control of lucrative territories. This period, known as the Mexican Drug War, saw a surge in drug-related violence, with brutal conflicts between cartels and confrontations with law enforcement. The violence reached unprecedented levels, leading to a staggering death toll and widespread insecurity across Mexico. In collaboration with international partners, the Mexican government launched various initiatives to combat the cartels and reduce drug-related violence. With the help of the CIA, high-profile arrests and extraditions, including that of El Chapo, were made, temporarily disrupting cartel operations. However, the arrest of cartel leaders often led to power struggles within the organizations, resulting in further violence and fragmentation. Since its establishment in 1947, the Central Intelligence Agency has faced allegations of forming alliances and engaging in covert activities with drug traffickers around the world. These accusations have extended to the agency's involvement in the Mexican drug cartels. While the veracity of these claims remains debatable, several incidents and investigations have fueled speculation regarding connections between the CIA and Mexican drug cartels. In the early 1970s, journalist Alfred McCoy made allegations suggesting that the CIA was complicit in Southeast Asia's illegal drug trade for political and military considerations. Specifically, McCoy claimed that the CIA knowingly participated in heroin production in the Golden Triangle region encompassing Burma, Thailand, and Laos. However, subsequent investigations by the Inspector General of the CIA, the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs, and the United States Senate Select Committee to Study Governmental Operations with respect to intelligence activities, the Church Committee, failed to substantiate these charges. In the 1980s, journalists Anthony Avergan and Martha Honey linked the perpetrator of the Lepenka bombing to a drug-financed secret team comprising FDN-Contras and CIA agents. The Christic Institute later filed a civil suit accusing CIA officials and others of engaging in illegal activities, including assassinations, arms trafficking, and drug trafficking. However, the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida ruled that the plaintiffs failed to provide sufficient evidence, resulting in the Christic Institute being ordered to pay substantial fees and costs. Gary Webb's 1996 series of articles, known as Dark Alliance, stirred further controversy. Webb alleged that U.S. government officials, including CIA and Department of Justice employees, turned a blind eye to or protected drug dealers associated with the Nicaraguan Contras in Southern California. However, subsequent investigations by the Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General, CIA Office of Inspector General, and the United States House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence rejected the main charges raised in Webb's series. In October 2013, an American television network aired allegations that CIA operatives were involved in the kidnapping and murder of DEA covert agent Enrique Camarena in the 1980s. According to multiple sources, including 2 former federal agents and an ex-CIA contractor, the CIA collaborated with drug traffickers to bring cocaine and marijuana into the United States. The CIA spokesman dismissed these allegations as ridiculous, denying any involvement in the murder of a U.S. federal agent or the protection of his alleged killer. The nature of covert operations often makes it challenging to uncover the full extent of intelligence agency involvement. However, there are several factors that indicate that the CIA runs the Mexican drug cartels. The CIA has a long history of involvement in covert ops globally. The CIA's primary mission is to gather intelligence and conduct secret operations to protect U.S. national security interests. Over the years, the CIA has been involved in various undercover activities, often operating in the shadows to achieve its objectives. During the Cold War era, the CIA engaged in numerous covert operations as part of its effort to counter the influence of the Soviet Union and communism. These operations ranged from intelligence gathering and propaganda campaigns to supporting anti-communist movements and overthrowing governments perceived as threats to U.S. interests. One infamous example of CIA involvement in covert operations is the Iran-Contra affair in the 1980s. In an attempt to fund anti-communist rebels in Nicaragua, the CIA facilitated the sale of weapons to Iran, despite an arms embargo, and used the proceeds to support the Contras. This covert operation was met with controversy and legal implications, exposing the extent of the CIA's involvement in covert activities. Another notable aspect of the CIA's covert operations is its collaboration with foreign intelligence agencies and paramilitary groups. The agency has often worked closely with local partners to gather intelligence, carry out targeted assassinations, or support proxy wars. These alliances have sometimes blurred the lines between U.S. interests and the group's or government's agenda. So, it's not far-fetched that the CIA could be running the Mexican drug cartels. The CIA's involvement in covert ops is well documented, and there's evidence, albeit circumstantial, that the agency actively runs Mexican drug cartels. Although often labeled as conspiracy theories and allegations, the CIA has played a role in the rise and operation of Mexican drug cartels. The CIA has historically relied on drug trafficking as a source of covert funding for its operations, and in a bid not to block their source of funding, they ignored drug trafficking activities, allowing cartels to thrive while benefiting from the proceeds. It is important to note that drug cartels in Mexico have their origins and motivations deeply rooted in socioeconomic conditions, corruption, poverty, and the demand for illicit drugs in the United States. Mexican cartels are known for their brutal tactics, violence, and control over drug trafficking routes, driven by their power struggles and financial interests. And this is where the CIA rules supreme, providing arms and intelligence to favored cartels. But it's not just the agency. There have been individuals associated with the U.S. intelligence agencies who have ties to drug cartels. Such connections might have been formed in the context of intelligence gathering or as part of larger geopolitical strategies. In recent years, the Mexican government, with the assistance of international partners, including the United States, has made concerted efforts to combat drug cartels and dismantle their operations. These efforts have included joint operations, intelligence sharing, and financial sanctions. The focus has primarily been on disrupting drug trafficking networks, arresting cartel leaders, and enhancing law enforcement capabilities. The CIA's handling of the drug cartels in Mexico carries profound implications and consequences for all involved, and it's also generated significant discussion and concern. Guillermo Terrazas Villanueva, a spokesperson for the Chihuahua state government in northern Mexico, claimed that international security forces, including the CIA, do not fight drug traffickers, but attempt to manage the drug trade. While Villanueva's views do not represent Mexico's foreign policy establishment, they highlight a deep-rooted belief among some officials and residents that external forces have a vested interest in perpetuating the drug trade. The CIA and DEA declined to comment directly on the accusations. However, other officials, including the mayor of Juarez, dismissed the claims and emphasized their collaboration with the U.S. in fighting drug gangs. The U.S. has provided significant aid to Mexico's drug war under the Merida Initiative, including equipment, training, and weapons funding. Other critics argue that the drug war is an illusion and a pretext for U.S. intervention in Latin America. They point to incidents like Operation Fast and Furious, in which the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives sold weapons to criminals in an attempt to track them, but lost control over the operation. These allegations of CIA involvement in drug trafficking are not unprecedented, as there have been past reports linking CIA missions to the surge in crack cocaine consumption in the United States. Already grappling with high levels of violence and corruption, Mexico would face further destabilization if concrete evidence of the CIA's involvement in the Mexican drug cartel made it to the open. With their association with a powerful intelligence agency, the cartels would likely strengthen their grip on power, leading to increased territorial disputes, drug trafficking, and bloodshed. Corruption within Mexican institutions would deepen, eroding trust between the government and its citizens. The revelations would shatter public confidence in law enforcement, military, and political entities, fueling social unrest and potentially undermining the rule of law. The consequences would extend beyond Mexico's borders. Diplomatic relations between Mexico and the United States, already complex, would become further strained. Cooperation on security and intelligence sharing, as well as trade relations, could suffer. The credibility of joint efforts to combat organized crime and address shared challenges would be questioned. Regionally, the stability of neighboring countries would be at risk. Mexico's role as a major drug transit country means that any escalation of violence and criminal activities within its borders would have a spillover effect. The involvement of a foreign intelligence agency in the drug trade could worsen existing problems in the region, leading to increased violence, drug trafficking, and socio-economic hardships. Internationally, the revelations would undermine the credibility of efforts to counter narcotics. The perception of international cooperation in combating drug trafficking would deteriorate, casting doubt on the effectiveness of counter-narcotics initiatives. Dismantling criminal networks and reducing drug-related violence would become more challenging. Efforts to counter narcotics would face severe setbacks. The credibility of international cooperation in combating drug trafficking would be undermined, casting doubt on the effectiveness of counter-narcotics initiatives. The capacity to dismantle criminal networks and reduce drug-related violence would be compromised. If you like this video, you will love our next one.